Ethan adjusted the straps on his worn backpack and squinted against the harsh sun. The canyon stretched endlessly before him, a maze of jagged rocks and narrow paths. He had walked this terrain many times, mapping it for the human colony that depended on his reports. But even after years of exploration, every crevice and shadow seemed alive with danger. Today he felt a subtle tension, the kind that crawled along his spine and made him tighten his grip on his walking staff. He paused near a rocky ledge, listening. A faint sound caught his attention. It was quiet at first, almost like the wind, but then he heard it again. A soft, strained cry for help. Ethan froze. He had learned to trust his instincts in these wilds. Whoever or whatever was out there, it was in trouble. Without hesitation, he followed the sound, carefully moving over loose stones and through patches of dry brush. The cries led him to a small hollow near a stream. There, slumped against the rocks, was a girl. She had dark hair tangled with dust and sweat, and her clothing was torn in several places. Her skin bore faint tribal markings, intricate patterns that hinted at a proud and ancient culture. But more pressing than her markings was her condition. She was breathing heavily, dehydrated and covered in shallow cuts. Ethan knelt beside her. "Hey, are you okay?" he asked softly, offering a canteen of water. She blinked up at him, her eyes wary but desperate. Hesitation flitted across her face before she took the water with trembling hands. "Water, thank you," she whispered, her voice raspy. Ethan noticed she spoke a language that sounded human, but had subtle differences in pronunciation. She clearly had not grown up among humans. "Take it slow," Ethan said, tilting her head gently so she could drink. He examined her cuts, cleaning them with the small medical kit he always carried. Some were shallow, but one on her leg looked deep enough to slow her if she tried to run. He applied a quick bandage and made a note to keep it clean. As she rested, he studied her. She was young, perhaps 16 or 17, though her sharp eyes and alert movements suggested she had survived harsh conditions for years. There was a strength in her, a resilience that was almost alien. She observed him with equal curiosity, her gaze steady but cautious. "My name is Ethan," he said, extending a hand. She hesitated, then touched it lightly, almost as a test. "Naya," she replied, her accent thick but understandable. Ethan nodded. "I'm glad I found you before it got worse." "You've been out here alone?" Naya nodded, looking away. "Raiders. Took everything. I ran. They tried to catch me. I fell." She shivered despite the heat, glancing at the canyon walls as if expecting danger to leap out from the rocks. Ethan's mind raced. Raiders were common in these parts, human and alien alike. The colony had been sending warnings, but some areas were too wild, too remote. He had to make a decision quickly. "You're not safe here," he said. "I can help you get to your people." "Do you know where your village is?" Naya shook her head. "Far hidden?" "Only my tribe knows." She touched her chest briefly, a gesture that felt almost ritualistic. Ethan sensed the weight behind it. Whatever her tribe was, it had rules and traditions that mattered deeply to her. Ethan offered her a reassuring smile. "We'll figure it out together." It took hours for her to regain enough strength to walk. Ethan moved slowly, supporting her as they navigated the canyon paths. The sun beat down relentlessly, but he stayed focused, aware that predators, human and otherwise, could be near. Naya's agility slowly returned, but it was clear that she relied on his guidance. As they traveled, Ethan asked carefully about her tribe. "Your markings. They look important. Do they mean something?" Naya glanced at her arm. "Tribe, old laws, marks show. Family role, mine, hunt, protect." She gestured vaguely to the landscape. "Canyon, safe. Raiders, hate." Ethan nodded, keeping his voice gentle. "I see, you're very skilled then. That helped you survive." Her eyes softened slightly. "You saved me. Water, hands." She looked away, embarrassed perhaps, or uncertain how to express gratitude. Then her gaze met his, serious and unflinching. "Law, tribe, says, whoever saves life becomes husband." Ethan blinked, taken aback. The words were simple, but their meaning hit him like a sudden jolt. "Husband?" he repeated carefully. Naya nodded. "Law cannot break. If saved, life, now belong." "Me protect." "Belong," Ethan swallowed. He understood the weight of her words. If he ignored them, he would dishonor her and possibly provoke hostility from her people. He could not allow that, yet he had not expected such a responsibility. Then I will respect your law, he said, finally meeting her eyes. I will help you get home. Naya's expression shifted slightly, relief flickering across her face. Good, must hurry. Raiders come back. The tension returned as shadows stretched across the canyon. Ethan led Naya through a series of narrow passages and hidden ledges, using his knowledge of the terrain to avoid the raiders. At one point, a small group appeared ahead, human figures armed with crude energy rifles. Ethan froze, pressing Naya behind a rock. Stay quiet, he whispered. Using quick thinking, he created a small diversion by kicking a loose stone down a side passage. The raiders turned, giving Ethan and Naya a chance to slip past. His heart pounded, but he moved with calm precision. Naya followed his lead, silent and swift, her survival instincts honed to perfection. Hours passed as they navigated the labyrinthine canyon. The sun dipped low, casting long shadows and turning the rocks a fiery red. Eventually, they found a hidden cave, a natural shelter where Naya could rest safely for the night. Ethan built a small fire outside the entrance while keeping watch, knowing that danger was still close. Naya sat on a flat rock, brushing dirt from her hair. You human, strong, clever, she said quietly. Few survive alone. You help, not afraid. Ethan smiled, though fatigue weighed on him. Humans, we find ways, and we help when we can. He handed her some water. She drank, her movements careful but grateful. They sat in silence for a while, the crackling fire filling the canyon with warmth and light. Ethan wondered how he would explain this to the colony. He had faced dangers before, but helping a young alien girl bound by her tribe's law was unlike anything he had encountered. Tomorrow, must reach tribe, Naya said softly. Elders. No. Law kept. Ethan nodded. I'll take you there. We'll move at first light. As night fell, he kept a watchful eye on the entrance. The stars above seemed unusually bright in this isolated canyon, and for a moment he allowed himself to appreciate the beauty despite the tension. Somewhere out there, raiders waited, but for now they were safe. Naya slept lightly, one hand resting on her chest where her tribal markings glowed faintly in the firelight. Ethan realized that helping her was no longer just a matter of survival. It was a responsibility he could not abandon. He resolved to honor her laws, protect her, and learn from the culture that had shaped her so strongly. Hours passed, and the canyon grew silent except for the occasional call of a distant animal. Ethan remained alert, feeling a connection to the girl he had saved, a bond forged in the heat of the desert sun and the shadow of danger. He wondered what her tribe would think of him, how they would judge a human who followed their laws, and whether he could earn their trust. In the quiet, he reflected on human resilience. Humans adapted, endured, and thrived even in worlds where others faltered. Helping Naya was dangerous, yes, but it was also natural. Compassion and courage were part of him, as much as his skill with tools or knowledge of terrain. He would not falter now. When dawn broke, painting the canyon walls with shades of gold and orange, Ethan gently woke Naya. Time to go, he said. She nodded, rising with surprising agility. Together they prepared to leave the cave, ready to face whatever lay ahead. Raiders' rugged canyons, and the unknown traditions of a proud tribe. Ethan understood one thing clearly. This journey would test every skill he had, challenge every assumption about survival, and push the limits of what it meant to be human. And he welcomed it, because in this vast, unforgiving world, humanity's strength was more than muscle or weapon. It was courage, empathy, and the will to do what was right, even when it was unexpected. As they set out, Naya glanced at him and said simply, "Thank you, husband." Ethan smiled, a mix of surprise and resolve in his expression.
He would honor that bond, whatever it meant.
Because in the harshest worlds, that was what made humans special. They fought, they protected, and they never turned away when someone needed them. The canyon stretched before them, mysterious and dangerous, but Ethan and Naya moved forward together, a human and a girl bound by fate, law, and a shared fight for survival. Their journey had only just begun. The sun rose slowly over the canyon, casting long shadows across the jagged rocks. Ethan helped Naya down the last steep ledge, steadying her with a firm grip. She moved carefully, every step precise, as if the canyon itself were alive beneath her feet. Despite the lingering ache in her leg, she kept pace, driven by both necessity and trust. They reached a narrow gorge that marked the edge of Naya's hidden village. The area was cleverly concealed, a series of natural walls and camouflaged openings that would be almost impossible for outsiders to find. Ethan paused, surveying the terrain. He admired the ingenuity of the design. Naya's people had clearly learned to survive against all threats, blending their environment with their safety. Naya turned to him, her eyes serious. Elders, wait. See. Law kept. She took a deep breath and stepped forward. Ethan followed closely, aware of the weight of the moment. He had learned of her tribe's law in part 1, but now he would face the full reality of it. The first signs of the village appeared as they approached. Small dwellings built from stone and reinforced with lightweight, advanced materials, adorned with carved symbols that glimmered faintly in the sunlight. Villagers paused in their work, eyes shifting toward the pair. Children hid behind their parents, curious and wary. The air was thick with tension. An older woman, clearly an elder, stepped forward. Her eyes were sharp, her expression unreadable. "Who are you?" she demanded, her voice calm but authoritative. Ethan bowed slightly. "I am Ethan. I found Naya wounded in the canyon. I gave her water and care." He spoke respectfully, understanding that every word would be scrutinized. The elder studied him for a long moment, then glanced at Naya. The girl nodded. "Saved, life, law. Husband," she said simply. The elder's eyes narrowed slightly, then softened. She gestured for them to follow. They entered the village, and Ethan realized the people here lived in harmony with their surroundings, relying on clever technology and deep knowledge of their land to survive. It was clear that outsiders rarely visited, and those who did rarely left without trouble. Inside a central hall, a small group of elders awaited. Their presence was commanding. Ethan felt a momentary pang of nervousness. He had faced dangers in the wild, but this was different. This was a test of respect, honor, and understanding. "You saved her life," one elder stated, his voice echoing softly in the hall. "According to our laws, you are now bound to her. You must live honorably, protect her, and show that you understand our ways." Ethan nodded solemnly. "I will respect your laws. I will protect her and follow your guidance." Another elder, younger but with the same intensity in her gaze, leaned forward. "Many outsiders are afraid. Few understand our traditions. How do we know you are different?" Ethan met her eyes. "Because I have seen what survival demands. I know the value of life. I know the importance of honor." "I will not fail," the elders whispered among themselves, then one stepped forward. "Very well. You may stay, but your deeds must prove your words." Ethan understood. Respect had to be earned here, not demanded. He glanced at Naya, whose eyes reflected a mix of relief and cautious hope. Together, they would face the challenges ahead. Days passed, and Ethan began to learn the tribe's ways. He helped with daily tasks, using human ingenuity to improve efficiency. He devised clever water channels to capture dew in the early morning, and created small, effective defenses for the village using simple tools and local materials. The villagers watched him carefully, noting his skills and determination. Naya grew more comfortable around him, teaching him about tracking, hunting, and the subtle signs of the canyon. She was patient but firm, and Ethan admired her discipline and wisdom. In return, he shared small human inventions and tactics, explaining how they could be adapted without breaking the tribe's harmony. One morning, a scout arrived with urgent news. A group of raiders had discovered the village's approximate location and were moving closer. The elders convened immediately, planning a strategy. Ethan studied the raiders' approach and realized that their numbers and weapons were superior, but they lacked understanding of the canyon terrain. He suggested setting traps along the narrow passages, using natural rocks and tripwires to slow the raiders while the villagers prepared ambush points. The elders listened intently, impressed by his strategic thinking. When the raiders finally arrived, the battle began. Ethan moved alongside Naya, coordinating defenses and guiding villagers. Rocks tumbled down narrow slopes, crude energy blasts were deflected with clever shields, and the raiders found themselves caught in a web of traps and ambushes. Ethan's human ingenuity turned the tide. Naya fought alongside him, her movements precise and deadly. She ducked, leapt, and struck with speed and accuracy. Together they became a seamless team, combining human strategy and tribal skill. The raiders, frustrated and outmaneuvered, were forced to retreat. After the battle, the village erupted in quiet celebration. Villagers came forward, shaking Ethan's hand, nodding with respect and acknowledging his courage. The elders convened again, this time with smiles rather than suspicion. "You have proven yourself," one elder said. "Not only have you honored the law, but you have protected our people. You are no longer just a visitor, you are part of this tribe." Naya stepped forward, her expression softening. "You stayed, helped, learned, respected. You deserve trust." She looked at him with a seriousness that touched Ethan deeply. "You are my husband, not only by law, but by honor." Ethan felt a mixture of relief and pride. This bond was not forced, it was earned. He had not only saved Naya, but also proven that humans could understand, respect, and integrate into a culture vastly different from their own. Over the next few weeks, life in the village settled into a rhythm. Ethan continued to learn, adapting human knowledge to improve the community's safety and efficiency. He taught villagers new techniques for water collection, food preservation, and simple mechanical solutions to everyday problems. The tribe began to rely on him not just as Naya's protector, but as an ally whose skills were invaluable. Naya and Ethan grew closer, though their bond remained rooted in mutual respect and shared purpose rather than romantic pressure. They communicated through gestures, simple words, and trust built in the canyon's harsh environment. Ethan admired her courage and wisdom, while Naya appreciated his calm under pressure and willingness to understand her ways. One evening, as the sun set and the canyon glowed in shades of orange and red, Ethan and Naya stood at the edge of a cliff overlooking the village. "Do you think humans can survive here?" Naya asked, her voice thoughtful. Ethan smiled. "We adapt. We find ways. We survive because we care, because we plan, and because we never give up." Naya nodded slowly. "You prove humans strong, clever, good." Ethan looked at her, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. "And you prove that courage and wisdom are not just human traits. We all have something to learn from each other." The night fell and stars filled the sky. Ethan realized that the canyon, once a place of danger, had become a place of connection, learning, and mutual respect. He had entered as a stranger and a protector, but he now stood as an ally and a friend, part of a culture that had initially seemed foreign and impenetrable. Weeks later, another group of scouts reported distant raiders attempting to find the village again. This time, Ethan and Naya led the defense, combining human tactics with tribal strategy seamlessly. They set clever ambushes, guided villagers through safe paths, and minimized risk to everyone. The raiders fled once more, and the village remained safe. The elders called a gathering to honor Ethan's contributions. They presented him with a simple ceremonial gift, a carved symbol representing protection, courage, and trust. He accepted it with humility, understanding that it symbolized not just his actions but the bond between humans and the tribe. Naya stood by his side, her expression proud. "You, human, kept law, saved tribe, became one of us." She placed her hand briefly on his arm, a gesture of trust and respect. "You are my husband and my friend." Ethan felt a warmth that had nothing to do with the sun. This was more than law. It was recognition of character, honor, and courage. He had saved Naya, but in return he had gained trust, friendship, and a place in a world far different from his own. As night fell over the canyon, Ethan and Naya sat together looking at the stars. The village below them slept peacefully, safe for now. He realized that humans could face the harshest conditions, navigate complex cultural landscapes, and still remain compassionate and honorable. It was not just survival. It was the essence of what made them special. In that moment, Ethan understood that his journey had only begun. He had entered the canyon as an explorer, a human on a mission. But he would remain as a protector, a learner, and a trusted member of a tribe that had taught him courage, resilience, and the value of law and honor. And in that bond between a human and an alien girl, he saw the power of trust, respect, and shared humanity across worlds. The canyon remained wild and untamed, but Ethan and Naya faced it together, united by law, respect, and courage. In a world full of danger, raiders, and uncertainty, humanity had proven once again that it could rise above, adapt, and thrive, and so The story of a human and an Apache-like girl continued, not as conqueror and conquered, but as equals, bound by fate, law, and the unspoken understanding that courage, compassion,